Our next speaker is going to introduce us to the UX Scorecard, a tool that can help you improve your app. And just like for Becky, I made life really hard for Lori when I asked her to provide me with her favorite story. She has too many. Only after a lot of soul searching, she finally decided on Prodigal Summer by Barbara Kingsolver. It's a story about love, loss, and connections. So basically, it's the story about the AV equipment here at Atlas Camp this year. Please join me in welcoming Lori to the stage.
Thanks, Peter. And thanks, everybody, for joining me at the end of 2 long days. I really appreciate it. I joined Atlassian about a year ago to lead the ecosystem design and content team. And just after I started, Luke Kilpatrick, who invented App Weeks, pitched me on the idea of focusing one on user experience. It's kind of new, not about hacking. I jumped at the opportunity, thinking that it was a way to solve the pain I was hearing from my awesome but tiny team. Most of you have probably already met Lucy Denton, Kelly Snow, and Becky Todd. We also had a writer, Andrew, but he doesn't speak or come to conferences. They'd given excellent talks at App Weeks. They've talked at Atlas Camp this week. And they got tons and tons of requests. Help me with this. Please consult with me on that. And they had a great desire to do it, but combining that with their day jobs wasn't working. So we thought this could be a way to scale our ability to reach the larger ecosystem. So we set out to design a week where we could share our expertise and develop some tools that we could share outside of App Week. In order to know whether the event was successful, we had to have a way to measure beyond event NPS, which was the only tool we used at the time. So thus the scorecard was born. I'll get to how we developed it, but on the eve of App Week, we nervously sent out these scorecards to vendors and partners who had signed up to attend. And we thought, how's this going to go? We hope they'll take the feedback in the spirit that we intend. So this is what we'll talk about today. What is the scorecard? How did it work? What did we learn? And then we'll practice using it together so you can take it with you. And by the way, there's copies for us to work with today. There's a few extra on the back. And we'll be putting it up on the developer community site as a PDF so you can download it later as often as you need to use it. So almost immediately after sending out the emails with the scorecards, this was a response we got from Tim at Good Software. And we got really excited. We're like, okay, we've set the stage for how we could both share our expertise and help you all improve apps so that our shared customers' experience would be better all around. Dalen Simons, who is our recently departed head of ecosystem marketing, was a stickler for metrics. So she was bugging me like, how are we going to know if we're successful? Well, I greatly appreciate metrics, but this was a hard problem. How do you measure teaching about user experience? So our goal was to help all of you who didn't have a dedicated design team learn to think like we think about what makes a great app. And for those of you who did, dig deeper into the Atlassian design environment, learn more about our guidelines and our UI toolkits so that we could work together to create that consistent experience. We also wanted to learn from you what you needed from us to be more successful. So this is what we hoped to achieve. We hoped that by bringing product managers, developers, our design systems team, including our UI toolkit engineers, and some researchers to teach, that we would achieve all of these results. In fact, we wanted to improve the overall usability and performance of apps, share our brand guidelines so that you could follow them instead of breaking them, because we'd gone through an experience of evaluating all the vendor logos, and many of them, whether we don't know why, whether it was because they intentionally did or didn't follow our guidelines. And we'd heard from designers who'd been coming to App Weeks and some developers who were also playing the role of designers. They wanted a way to connect outside of App Week. So in fact, what we saw was we achieved all of these, including Lucy, who I saw just walk in, created a very vibrant ecosystem design community. And Martin Arts, who's one of our very active members, was named as the top community ambassador at Partner Day this week. So we were super excited about that. But let's rein it back into the scorecard. So, what is it? This is the official definition. It's a tool that's created to help assess a product or experience. We have them internally at Atlassian, and I actually started by looking at those. They measure Jira, Confluence, Bitbucket, etc., and our teams use them. But they rely on qualitative and quantitative metrics, such as UX Lite, NPS, and usability testing. We thought about it, but we couldn't really create the environments in which to test all of the apps on both hosting solutions, finding the customers to do the testing. So I shifted to look at what was a set of qualitative metrics that we could use. I did some research and found 2 scales that are widely normed heuristic measures: the System Usability Scale, sometimes called SAS, and the Technology Assessment Metrics, TAM. They both look at learnability, usability, and adoption of software. So based on the scales, they're widely normed, although not without challenge from the academic community as you start looking into these things. I adapted them to reflect our best practices and knowledge, with sparring, as Lucy talked about in her session yesterday, and help from Karen Cross and Kelly Snow to bring it across the finish line. So pick up the scorecard. You should all have one on your table or your desk, and let's walk through it together. So the first set focuses on the presentation of your app to users in your marketing and the onboarding. So it looks at questions like, is it discoverable? Can people find it? As a few people have mentioned, the marketplace has tons of apps in it now. So how are users going to identify yours and want to acquire it? Does it follow the brand guidelines about your identity, your logo, how to use colors? Does it use best practices in onboarding? Kelly talked about that earlier today. If you didn't go to her session, I encourage you to watch the video of it later. Going on, the second section looks at the usability of an app. Does it provide guidance throughout the installation and onboarding experience? Does it do what you said it would do in your marketing materials? Can users actually use it? The last question here, you have to define for yourself, so the top tasks. There's an established protocol that you can follow to identify top tasks, which requires testing, etc. But for the purposes of the scorecard and most of your apps, you can just simply list what problems did you think your app was going to solve? What are the top 3 activities that your users should be doing with your app? In this section, I recommend that you find somebody in your company or a friend who's not a developer or designer of the app to do the tasks as you evaluate them. If you can do usability testing, that's even better. We as designers and developers of experiences get too close to actually be able to judge, are these tasks easy to do, because we know what they're supposed to do. Any questions so far? Cool. The last section looks at perception. So how do users feel about the app when they use it? Will they continue to use it? Or do they try it and abandon it because it's really complicated and too hard to figure out? So now I'll talk a little bit about what happened. We took each of the apps from the vendors and partners who'd signed up to come to Miami with us, assigned them each to a product manager or a designer, had them look for it both by Googling and looking in the marketplace, installing it, using it, and then rating according to the scorecard. Sometimes this was no small feat because we had to spin up servers in cloud or server, deal with permissions, and it required a lot of help from our engineering team. So Klaus, I don't know if you were in the room, but thanks. A week before we headed to Florida, as I mentioned, we sent out the apps, the scorecards that we had done, with a little trepidation, as I'd mentioned, because we hadn't told people when they signed up, hey, by the way, we're going to evaluate your app. So we thought maybe they would be surprised, Maybe they would think we were arrogant. We weren't quite sure. But as you saw, the feedback was really well received. And we've heard from many folks, and I continue to talk to folks this week, who've told us that through the sessions, the scorecards, the one-on-one consulting, that they've continued to be able to improve their apps and processes. And then when we got to Miami, to Key Largo actually, we had set up one-on-one sessions or group consulting where we talked through the feedback with the designer or product manager that provided it, and then brainstormed ideas about what to do to make the improvements. We'd hoped that we would re-rate the apps at the end of the week, but we kind of packed it with content, and people didn't have that much time to build, so we didn't really get that done. And we also wanted to re-rate the next time vendors and partners submitted to the marketplace, but we've been kind of slow in figuring out how to make that happen. So we reached out to people and said, hey, what did you do with the feedback we talked about? So what did we learn through this experience? People came and said, how do I add this up? Did I get a 3, a 3.5, a 5? It's not a cumulative score. It's not a report card like that. It's not a score that you can put in your marketing materials. Atlassian rated me. More, it's a tool to help guide you towards areas of your app that you can focus on to improve following best practices. And in some cases, very specific areas or techniques that you can use. We also learned that the scale we used was confusing. In the top 2 sections, all the questions are answered. 1 is low and 5 is high. In the perception metrics, several of the questions had a reverse scale, so that 1 was high, 5 was low. That was super confusing to folks, so we changed that. Vendors also gave us the feedback that we should provide as detailed explanation for each rating as we could to help them know how to think about it. So now I want to share a few examples that I got of where people actually use the feedback from the scorecard and the consulting sessions. In the first area on marketing, Andreas, who's here with us, who builds metadata for Jira, had this example where when you first installed the app, it was kind of a no man's land. He assumed that since admins were doing the installation, they could figure it out. They're smart people, right? But after we talked at App Week, and he went to Kelly's and Lucy's session on onboarding, he added these 2 buttons that really guide people once it's installed. Something you shared, I hope it's okay to share. He's seen the revenue on his app go up since he made these improvements. So he's hoping to add it to his other app and see the similar improvement. So I was like, wow, yay, this is awesome. An example, so we got feedback without images, but I'll just share a couple of stories that were shared with me. Shannon Krebs from Kamala Tech said that they went back and their UI team is building a shared React library to unify their experience across cloud and server. And that will help them with both the design and experience aspect of their apps, but also it's going to save their team a ton of time. So that's another way to think about experience. And Christopher Bromberg from K15T said that UX improvements have been the main dish of their team on scroll versions and translations. Something really cool was they got back after App Week and had deeper discussions about what did versions mean in the context of scroll documents. So fundamentally assessing the user experience of one of their key tools. Here's another example moving on to usability, where this dialogue in Yasun was very clean and clear, but it was also a little bit of a mystery to people. They didn't know what calendars they could choose. They didn't really know what to do. So after App Week, they redesigned both the UI and the information experience to better teach users what to do. And I don't have it here, but they added animated GIFs to demonstrate. So it moves between the tabs to help people focus on, oh, those are my choices. So some pretty simple things that make a big difference. I got this example from June at Gliffy. They'd received feedback that their save model was confusing. And I don't know if you guys have ever used Gliffy, but I've been using it for a few years. And I have to click where to save. I'd go back on my Confluence page. The update wouldn't be there. They got this feedback, and after App Week, they re-implemented their save model so it matches Confluence's. Seems pretty straightforward, but it had never occurred to them. And then moving on to perception, Cliffy also worked on the performance of their app. And we think about this, but we don't always think about it in the context of user experience. So they increased the function significantly of their different tools. And that positively influences the user's impression and gets him to return and use the app and feel better about it. So that's where the perception comes in. Okay, so now we get to the fun part. Let's practice a little bit. So I'm going to go through an Atlassian Labs app because I figured I'd pick on us. Somebody in our team who built, in our company, who built an app called Rich Text Gadget for Jira. So here's their marketplace listing. Take your scorecard, and on question number 2, take a look. Does the listing have rich media? Some vendors repeat the image to fill the 3 thumbnails. Some images are detailed or poor quality. We really prefer that if you go through the scale, and I missed a bullet there, but you have a hero video and 3 or more unique quality images is a 5, all the way down to no images, all text is a 1. So now what I'd like to do is have you share with me your ratings. I'm going to count to 3, and I want you to hold up the number of fingers that you rate the app. Everybody ready? So 1, 2, 3. I see a lot of 3s out there. Peter, you've got a 4. Why do you have a 4? Okay. Anybody else? Why did you give it a 3? Go ahead.
There's not a hero image, there's just 3 unique quality images.
What would you suggest to improve it?
According to this one, a video and a hero image.
Okay, I don't know if everybody heard.
A video and a hero image.
Yeah. It's super easy to make a little animated GIF video of how your app works and pop it on there. So I think that's something that almost everybody can do to significantly increase when users find your app, like, is this something I want to install and use? And question number 3. Does the listing clearly articulate its core use cases using natural language, like how we speak, for the target audience? Take a second, read the description, and then I'm going to ask for your ratings. Peter. Okay, let's see them. 1, 2, 3. What do you think? On this side of the room, there are 2s. On this side of the room, I see a lot of, oh, I see now everybody's going. Okay. I don't know. I can't see you. You gave it a 1. Why did you give it a 1?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Just because there's contradiction between the name and the description. So there's rich text gadget for Jira, and then give context to your Jira dashboards. And that totally doesn't make sense to me.
Awesome. What would you do to fix it?
Decide.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, let's look at question number 5, the support offering. You can see here, not a whole lot offered. According to the gauge here, 5 would have a lot of stuff. Support hours, contact info, documentation, a portal. What are you thinking? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Almost everybody got this one. And again, an area where I was chatting with developers earlier today, and they were really proud of the support offering that they gave to their users, and it benefited in 2 ways. Users really liked their app and their company, and they got a lot of good feedback from their support person about areas to focus on, either feature-wise or things to fix. All right, and now question number 6. The app has reviews, and the vendor is actively responding to them. What you can't see here, because I didn't put in scrolling, is this developer did answer a lot of questions and did actually change features or add features based on the feedback. So let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I see a bunch of 4s. I think that's about right there. Moving on to the usability section. It's a little hard because we can't do a live demo. But if you look at question number 3, once installed, I could find and use the app. So 1 is strongly disagree, 3 is neutral, 5 is strongly agree. Show me your ratings. 1, 2, 3. 4s, 5s, 3s. 2. Tell me about the 2.
I can't actually see where this rich text is. Is it the red parts or what?
Yeah, it's a little hard to discover. If you know what you're looking for, it's that button up at the top that says Add Gadget, and it's in a sort of logical location for where you would discover features. But again, to your point, it's not super crisp about what it is or what to do. So I think once you know it's there, so what would you do to improve the discoverability? Any ideas?
That activity stream, your company Jira, I don't know if that's something that was automatically added when you installed it, but if it was, I would probably make it more rich than the red text that says add rich text here. Probably make an image and just make it super clear. This is an example, please edit, you're gonna realize how to use this app.
I think that's a great idea. Really make it visible and have it exemplify what it does. That, in fact, is a native widget. It's not even the one made by the rich text gadget. So you can see how useful it is to ask these questions of yourself with your own app and how easily you can make things better. All right, let's take a look at question number 8. The app looks and works like Atlassian products. Again, 1 strongly disagree, 3 neutral, 5 strongly agree. So the one up there that says another cool gadget is in fact the rich text gadget. So tell me your rating. 5? You got a 5 in the back? All right, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3s. Yeah, it kind of fits in, doesn't stand out, but again, you couldn't really tell that was the rich text gadget. Wrap it up. All right, last one. Going to the creation experience, the perception part of the scorecard. If you look at question number 9, it would be easy for a user to become skillful at using this app. So there it is in all its glory. It says rich text gadget. Looks pretty much like a text editor. What do you think? Would it be easy for a user to become skillful? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think I see a lot of 4s and 5s out there. I think they would because it looks pretty much like every text editor on the planet, so could probably figure that out. And then question 12, this app's features are clear and understandable. 1 to 5. Let's see it. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, not so good. I see some 1s, 2s, a couple of 4s out there. I think it has room for improvement. Again, it's an Atlassian Labs app, so something we do either at our ship-its or in our spare time, typically to solve a problem we have. But this, I think you can see how the scorecard works and the areas that it helps you hone in on that are where you can focus to really improve your app. So next week, I'll get the scorecard in PDF to Peter, and we'll put it up on Dev Community. You can download it. You're free to use it anytime. I'll be around later if you want to talk to me more about how I developed it with the help of my team and what how to use it.
So my idea is the first thing I'm going to do is make this into a blueprint of my conference.
Ah.
That's something you should think about.
We did think about
we're
that.
working on it.
Yeah. Peter had that idea too. I think it's a great one. It's just that too many things happening.
Something called Atlas Camp came up first.
And I shifted roles right before Atlas Camp. So anyway, thank you very much for coming. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Laurie.